Good afternoon. Welcome to this board meeting of the Board of Education of Anne Arundel County. This meeting is being televised live on ACPS TV and streamed on ACPS YouTube channel. I'm Joanna Bache Tobin, President of the Board of Education. General information and protocols for this meeting are posted on the sign by the doorway as you enter the room, so please make sure you read these if you have not already. The invocation. O God, we pray to administer that which is just in all educational policies, being ever mindful of your guidance. Stir us to action with love, wisdom, and understanding. I would also request a moment of silence for those who are currently engaged in tough fighting around the world, in Ukraine and elsewhere. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 2.03, approval of the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Do I have consensus? Thank you. Item 2.04, establish agenda order.
Motion to approve agenda order as written.
Second.
Do I have consensus?
Yes.
Thank you. Item 2.05, Mr. Leone. We'll talk about the tax scholarship.
Good afternoon, President Tobin, Vice President Silkworth, Dr. Arlato, and members of the board. My name is Russell Leone, he, him, his. I'm an elementary school teacher and serving as president of the Teachers Association of Anne Arundel County, where our vision is empowered educators, successful students, and connected communities. And one of the ways that we support our student success is by offering scholarships to our rising seniors. So the Teachers Association of Anne Arundel County Foundation for Educational Excellence is pleased to announce scholarships to be awarded to students in the Anne Arundel County Public School System. 9 scholarships will be one-time awards of $500 for the first year of college. One of these 9 is given by the TAC Retired Organization. One of the scholarships is the Robin Coleman Scholarship, which requires a major in computer science and/or technology. But we also know that our students succeed along many different paths. That is why, for the first time this year, we are offering a scholarship to a student planning to attend any trade school. In addition to these scholarships, we have 2 one-time book stipends of $300 each that will be awarded in the memory of Samuel and Bessie Chow. Scholarship applications can be found on our website at taconline.org. And I do want to stress that our deadline for this is April 1st at 4 p.m. Applications need to be in the TAC office by that time, not just postmarked. So that is very important. I do want to again thank you for this opportunity to share this information and opportunity for our rising seniors. We are very excited about supporting their success. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Leone, and thank you to TAC for those wonderful opportunities. Now, item 2.06, Educator of the Month, Ms. Schallheim.
Yes, thank you. The National Education Association's Read Across America Day is a nationwide reading celebration that takes place annually on March 2nd, Dr. Seuss's birthday. Across the country, thousands of schools and libraries participate by bringing together kids, teens, and books. Today, the Board of Education recognizes an educator in our system who has for years helped her students read across America every day at Benfield Elementary School. Susan Mosquios. Susan Mosquios is an integral part in planning and testing at Benfield Elementary School. She meets weekly with each grade level to plan explicit, comprehensive lessons, enhancing lessons to meet the needs for all students. She works closely with grade level writing teachers to enrich a curriculum for learning. She goes above and beyond to ensure lessons are engaging and challenging. Susan devotes a large quantity of her personal time in addition to her required school hours to assist and support our school community. She conducts intervention groups for all grade levels, plans professional development for testing administration, coordinates, administers all state and county testing, and meets with teachers to analyze data. Ms. Mosquios created a student book club, is always willing to assist students, teachers, and administrators with problem-solving needs. Her students adore her and always want to spend extra time with her. She is reasonable, rational, and a calm professional. She's organized and well-prepared, setting high standards for students, staff, and herself. Ms. Mosquios, your positivity and excitement for reading make a tremendous difference not only for your students, but for your colleagues as well. The Board of Education is proud to award you today as the March 2022 Educator of the Month. Congratulations, and please come forward. Congratulations. I hope I don't butcher your name. Okay. This is for you. And we also have a certificate for you. Who do you have with you here today?
My principal, my husband, two of my colleagues, and my aunt.
Oh, very nice. And why did they tell you to get you here today?
I had to fill in for my principal at the meeting.
Nice. Well, here you are. This is for you.
Thank you.
All right. Congratulations.
Thank you. Item 2.07, Employee of the Month, Ms. Ellis.
Thank you. Our employee of the month joined Anne Arundel County Public Schools in September of 2011. He is the current program manager of instructional equipment. I love that part. Christian Converse is always ready and willing to assist schools, teachers, and students. He has volunteered as both a member of the Interactive Media Productions Program Advisory Committee and part of the student interview team at the Center of Applied Technology. Principal of Cat North, Joe Rose, said, "I personally have had the pleasure of working at multiple schools within AACPS. Christian has always been there to offer advice and suggest the equipment that would be most appropriate for a classroom, lab, or conference room. Last year, amid the pandemic, Cat North had a few technical issues that negatively impacted teaching and learning. Christian was able to help address the issues immediately. He is a problem solver and continually seeks solutions. Mr. Converse's willingness to help schools move forward with technology needs can't be matched. Christian is always willing to work to meet the needs of the teachers and students. His integrity and high level of professionalism cannot be matched. It is because of staff members like him that the CAT centers are AACPS awesome. Mr. Converse is unfailingly courteous, positive, friendly, professional to everyone he interacts with, students, staff, and families. He strives for excellence in all tasks, big and small, and keeps working until the job is finished to perfection. He follows through on all requests and responds with willingness and maximum effort. Christian exemplifies the high standard of customer service that AACPS asks of its employees. Mr. Converse, thank you for all that you do for Anne Arundel County Public Schools. The Board of Education awards you as the March 2022 Employee of the Month. Congratulations.
You look a little surprised.
I am surprised.
This is for you. This is a certificate for you, and I'm including the write-up so you can
Thank you very much.
have what the wonderful people said. And who's here celebrating you today?
Oh, well, I see some of my staff is back there, and my wife is here. Oh my gosh. I don't know where she snuck in. And of course, my boss, Dave Perkins, who's been a tremendous boss and gotten me through the last 10 years here. So
That's great. Why did you think you were here?
I thought I was here to talk about the big sound enhancement project that we just finished. We just installed 3,000 sound systems in 3,000 classrooms.
Right.
Thank you very much. Now we move to item 2.08, Volunteer of the Month. Mr. Silkworth is going to.
Ladies and gentlemen, there are few things as powerful as volunteers who are the whole package. The volunteers which not only create innovative opportunities for our students, but also model good citizenship. These volunteers are so instrumental in the development of the whole child. They somehow simultaneously transform the opportunities within our schools and guide our students into kind and conscientious adults. This is certainly the case for the volunteer we're here to celebrate today, Mr. Carlos Hernandez. The Board of Education is proud to honor you as our March 2022 Volunteer of the Month. Ladies and gentlemen, last year, Mr. Hernandez initiated the Motorola tutoring program at Lindale Middle School, in which he and his colleagues paired up with various students to provide additional support in mathematics, science, research writing, and problem-solving skills. Mr. Hernandez spearheaded this project, facilitated meetings, organized other volunteers, and participated in ongoing tutoring sessions. Over the past year, Mr. Hernandez has begun guiding students as they complete their year-long Changemaker project. When students were asked about these experiences, they expressed their appreciation for the opportunity to connect with adults outside of the classroom and to see that what they were learning in class connected to the real world, real people, and real careers. According to STEM Department Chair Renee Beasley, Mr. Hernandez is a trusted and valued member of our school community. Through his volunteerism, initiative in providing academic support and mentorship, Mr. Hernandez has improved the STEM program and shown students what it means to be a member of a community. Without his efforts, we would not have these connections and partnerships outside of Lindale Middle School. Assistant Principal Elena Thomas also expressed her appreciation for Mr. Hernandez's partnership. He immediately stepped up to mentor 8th grade STEM students, supported other grades as a guest speaker, recruited his colleagues as tutors, and even chaperoned field experiences. He participated in the PTA and supported many initiatives to support students and staff alike. I cannot say enough positive things about Mr. Hernandez, says school counselor Sherry Endo. He has been a wonderful support, not only to the Lindale STEM program, but to our entire school. Ms. Beasley spoke to the unique character of Mr. Hernandez when she shared, this past weekend, we held an event at school, and Mr. Hernandez hung behind for a little while, opened doors for kids coming in from the cold, and even provided a mask for a student who forgot one. These little things speak to his commitment to our school and program, his care for students, and to what a wonderful person he is. I am so honored to nominate him as Volunteer of the Month. He is an unsung hero and is well deserving of this accolade. Mr. Hernandez, it is with great appreciation that I would like to present to you virtually your certificate and, of course, our traditional bell, which will be sent to you. Ladies and gentlemen, Carlos Hernandez.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Any words, Mr. Hernandez?
Since I found a few minutes earlier, I just write something. I just want to appreciate and thank the whole Lindale Middle School and the LMS STEM team for the recognition and the opportunity to assist our community and also to establish long-term relationships between my employer and the community. So thanks a lot. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Carlos Hernandez, Anne Arundel County Volunteer of the Month. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and congratulations. We will now move to item 3, public comments.
Oh, do we do pictures?
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Do we need to go out and do pictures briefly? Okay, we will do that. Take a couple of minutes break, get some pictures. Thank
No,
you.
not really, but
Okay, thank you. All right, we will begin with Section 3, public comments. Speakers will be allotted 2 minutes each and may not allocate their time to others. The yellow light below me will shine when you have 30 seconds remaining. The red light below me will shine and you will hear a tone when your time has expired. The board asks that comments remain civil and appropriate for the various audiences that may be watching or viewing this meeting. Student-specific and personnel matters are confidential and cannot be discussed in this forum. Please speak only on the topic for which you signed up to speak. It is not the board's general practice to engage in question and answer session with speakers. For the record, please give your name before speaking, and handouts should be given to the board assistant. So with that, Ms. Katie Davis on item 4.04, Superintendent's Report, School Operations. Good afternoon.
Hi, I think it's just me today, so
Mhm.
I'll just go back
Well,
to back.
when you're done with this,
Okay.
then I'll
Yep,
ask you on the different issue.
sure. Thank you. Good afternoon, members of the board. I'm Katie Davis. I have students in the AACPS system. I'm really happy to speak to you without wearing a mask, but for the record, I was disheartened with how the optional mask policy came to be. There was a lack of transparency even today. I can't figure out the numbers. I'm pretty good with numbers. We're here though now, and hopefully the next variant isn't too bad, and maybe 100,000 holdouts in our county will get vaccinated. There's hope. I keep hearing about choice, parental choice on mask, parental choice on curriculum. If you're paying attention to the rest of the country, next there will be moves to ban books and limit sexual education in schools. This isn't hyperbole. This is about people trying to mold the public school system. They're afraid. And their fear feeds their racist and homophobic thoughts, words, and actions. My message to the board, be prepared and stand strong against these threats. Another thing I hear about is indoctrination. The Oxford Dictionary definition is the process of teaching a person or group to accept a set of beliefs uncritically. I learned critical thinking skills during my education through AACPS. But as evident from some of the public testimony, not everyone did. This is what I see and what I believe. People accusing AACPS of Marxist indoctrination and ranting about CRT are the indoctrinated, parroting Fox, infotainment, and Heritage Foundation talking points. Please keep encouraging our students to develop critical thinking skills. They need to be able to discern fact from fiction, from opinion, and we'll see them here in another 15, 20 years speaking to you as parents.
Thank you. And Ms. Davis, now you would like to speak on item 6.03, items of legislation.
Sure. These thoughts aren't quite drawn out. Again, I'm Katie Davis, and these are my own thoughts, don't reflect those of my employer or groups I'm associated with. But so a couple meetings ago, there were no comments on the legislative packet, and not everyone interested in this stuff even knows where board docs is, and they're not reading the things, and then articles are written in the Capitol. 20 days later, people are freaking out. I think it would be helpful if members of the board, if you see something in that legislative packet that the public could construe as controversial, and maybe you have a familiarity with the legislative process and know that it's really not going to go anywhere. Maybe you could read aloud the reason why the board opposes that position. It just might be helpful in alleviating some stress and crazy Facebook stuff. But anyway, for the benefit of people watching, there is a material in the legislative packet about how to close down a low-performing school, and the board opposes that. and it's based on Section 4101. I think this applies to a lot of legislation that comes through. So people should know that of the education law articles, this states that educational matters that affect the county shall be under the control of the County Board of Education, and that local boards of education determine with the advice of the county superintendent the educational policies of the county school system. So that applies to one of the pieces in the packet this time, and then 2 weeks early, or sorry, 2 meetings ago, to some legislation there. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. We will move now to item 4.01, President's Report. And I would like to mention a couple of things today. First of all, I was privileged to attend a couple of wonderful events over the last week, one of which was the County PTA's Reflection Awards, held last Thursday evening, where some wonderful students, some of our elementary students, were able to display terrific pieces of work they had done in art, in some cases dance. And I was privileged to be there, and I thank the County PTA for bringing back those awards, and look forward to seeing again some of the terrific work that our young people do, and some of that work is, I believe, displayed here, or will be. The second thing I was privileged to attend on Saturday was the STEM Science Expo at Annapolis High, where again some extraordinary work was on display. I was privileged to listen to a few of the interviews of students presenting their work. I suspect these are some of the young people who will be inventing the vaccines of the future and a number of other things as we move forward. I want to send a great thank you to Ms. Romanowski and the science staff who have overseen this work and done terrific work. And I also want to thank the members of the public who give their time as judges. They take this very seriously. They bring a wealth of experience and mentorship to our young people. And so congratulations to everyone on that event and that work going forward. I also would like to offer a report on behalf of the Superintendent Search Committee, which is chaired by Ms. Frank, with an update on the activities there. So the committee is chaired by, as I said, Ms. Frank, and includes Ms. Schalheim, Ms. Dent, and Ms. Ellis. The search committee met on February 18th, twice on February 22nd, on the 24th and the 28th. Due to the rigorous schedule and incredible dedication of these committee members, they have already completed the proposal process, selected a consultant, Hazard Young, Attia and Associates, which will be a review item on today's agenda, and met for their initial planning meeting. A system-wide survey will be sent out on March 7th and conclude on the 21st for all Anne Arundel County residents who would like to give their input. Again, this is going out to all residents who would like to give their input. HYA, the firm that's been secured, will also be meeting with stakeholder groups to develop a leadership profile report. So that is the information we have to date. I want to thank Ms. Frank and all the members of the committee for the work they've done thus far and will continue to do. This is a heavy lift, but I think this project and this very important project is in excellent hands. So thank you very much. So that's my report for today. So item 4.02, Policy Committee Report. Ms. Dent.
Good afternoon, Madam President and members of the board. We did meet on February 28th with a policy meeting yesterday hosted by Mrs. Jeanette Ortiz. We did meet virtually. We had great policies that are coming forward. One of my favorite ones that you all will see is the sustainability plan. I'm high environmental, if you don't know that. probably high everything, but for sure environmental. I think it's a great policy. I think that superintendent will appreciate the work that has went into the policy and making sure that we're following and doing all the conservation we need for our school systems. The other one, which is new, that's kind of been board, is not really new, but it's been around for a while. And given that we spent a lot of time last year talking about pregnancy and parent students, a policy is coming forth that will come before the board here, and I think at the next meeting to discuss that. And that was about it. That's all I have.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dent. Item 4.03, the PTA report. Ms. LaFawn.
Hello, good afternoon. President Tobin, Vice President Silkworth, Superintendent Dr. Olato, board members and guests. My name is Mallory LaFawn, President of the Anne Arundel County Council of PTAs. On February 24th, 2022, AACC PTA held our Reflections Art Programs Award Ceremony at the Odenton Public Library. Thank you to Dr. Tobin, the Capital Gazette, teachers, staff, parents, and students for attending. It was great to be able to celebrate our children's achievements in person and all together. As a reminder, the winning artwork will be displayed here at the Parham Building throughout the month of March. The winners will move forward to Free State PTA for judging at the state level. Congratulations again to all Reflections winners and participants, and special thank you to Tamara Beeger, who coordinated both the Reflections Art Program and award ceremony. Also, congratulations goes out to the Teacher of the Year nominees. All are well-deserving and amazing examples of AACPS awesome. Every year, Anne Arundel County Council of PTA awards $1,000 scholarships to 2 deserving Anne Arundel County Public School seniors. The 2020-21, 2022 AACC PTA scholarship application packet is now available online on our website, www.aaccpta.org/scholarships, and at each high school. The scholarships are the Kenneth Lawson Scholarship, which is awarded to a high school graduate who is planning to pursue a career involved with the field of education, and the Phoebe Apperson Hurst Scholarship, which is awarded to a high school graduate who is planning to attend a 2 or 4-year college or university and/or a private trade or technical institute. All scholarship application packets are due March 25th. Our next County Council PTA meeting is Monday, March 14th at 5:30 p.m. This virtual meeting will be continuing our discussion about scholarship opportunities for students, as well as advocacy and training updates. This meeting will be virtual with registration links sent out prior to the 14th. A reminder to local units that AACC PTA, Free State PTA, and the National PTA all promote an organization of inclusion. This means more than inviting a diverse group of members to the proverbial table, but also listening, hearing, and accepting all included. Our mission is to make all children's potential a reality, and that includes their families and community. In closing, I would like to say that AACC PTA always advocates for the safety and welfare of our students and school staff, and that we are in support of all school board and local government policies that put their health and safety first. We also ask that as new policies and regulations roll out, that families and staff members are given ample time to prepare and make arrangements for these changes. Whether it be virtual instruction or optional masking, AACC PTA will continue to advocate for clear and consistent communication, equity, safety, and the well-being of the full child in our county. As always, thank you for this opportunity to speak with the Board of Education, and also I continue to encourage everyone listening to join your local PTA. Your support helps the PTA support our school community and advocate for our students, families, and teachers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. LaFawn. Okay, item 4.04, Superintendent's Report, School Operations. Dr. Arlotto.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Currently, we have 91 active student cases of COVID and 6 active staff cases. The case rate in Anne Arundel County is 8.19. We continue to be encouraged by these decreasing numbers. As everyone is aware, we've made mask wearing in school and on school buses optional. Those students, staff, and visitors at Fort Meade schools must continue to follow the installation's protocols. As you're aware, we implemented a COVID testing program for those winter season student athletes that are not vaccinated or chose not to disclose their vaccination status. This program was very successful as we were able to identify asymptomatic positive student athletes and coaches and have them isolate, thus protecting the other team members and their respective sports seasons. With the beginning of spring sports today, March 1st, all of which are outdoor sports, and the case rates in the county having dropped significantly, we will not institute the testing program for student athletes, spring student athletes, excuse me. Our struggle to hire qualified bus drivers continues. The Anne Arundel Community College is continuing to partner with the Anne Arundel Workforce Development Corporation, AACPS, and DPW to host a series of information nights and learners permit preparatory sessions for individuals interested in pursuing a commercial driver's license, or CDL. Later this week, AACPS will be meeting with AAWDC and our partners within county government, as well as our transportation contractors, to kick off planning for a spring hiring fair. This is a repeat of the successful recruitment event hosted by AACPS in the fall. Details will be announced once the date, times, and location are finalized. The recently adopted streamlined application and testing protocols for CDL applicants seeking to transport school-aged children within Maryland remains in effect through March 31st, 2022. The CDL candidate modifications were jointly approved by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration and the Maryland Department of Transportation Motor Vehicle Administration. We continue to work collaboratively with our bus contractors and other partners to identify and hire qualified drivers. I am very sorry for the inconsistencies in routes throughout the year and subsequent difficulties this has presented to students and their families. We are very appreciative for the tremendous efforts our families have made to get their children to and from school each and every day. Magnet program applications closed at the end of November. Due to demands for seats, some magnet programs went to lottery. Magnet seat and waitlist seat offers were emailed to parents and guardians of applicants on February 11th. Families are now in the process of making their magnet decisions. Summer 2022 student programs will go live for families to apply on today, March 1. Last summer, we served over 10,000 students during the summer months. We have programming planned this summer that could accommodate over 15,000 students. It will be a great summer for our students. The state assessment information was released last week by MSDE. The scores reported are from the early fall MCAP, or Maryland Comprehensive Assessment Program administration, which occurred in late September and early October. Students in grades 4 through 9 were tested in ELA, English Language Arts, and math, and science for students in grades 6 and 9. Other high school students were also tested in English 10, Algebra 1, and science if they were enrolled in those courses last year. Students were tested on information they learned throughout the 2020-2021 school year. These assessments were very different than those our students had been engaged with previously from the state. The MCAP was administered in the fall, when it is normally administered in the spring, testing information students had learned in that same school year. Students that participated this fall were assessed on information taught last school year. For example, a current 5th grader was tested on 4th grade ELA. An 11th grader was tested on 10th grade English. The scores for the fall administration have no impact on individual students or school accountability. They simply had to participate in the assessment to meet federal regulations. These were changes made at the state level as a result of COVID. The fall assessments were purposely shorter than previous years, and constructed response items were not scored. Therefore, the assessments cannot be compared to previous years. Please keep in mind that it has been more than 2 years since the previous MCAP assessment and was more than 4 months since the content reflected on the assessment was last taught. Students were aware that participation, not achievement, is what mattered during this fall testing session. AACPS's stance is that an overemphasis on these results is counterproductive. The data can be used by our school teams to monitor gaps and determine where acceleration needs to take place. It is important to remember that teachers have much more relevant and current data from this school year to utilize with regard to student instruction and support. In about 6 weeks from now, our students will actually begin taking the traditional MCAP assessments for the 2021-2022 school year. We not only hope to see better results, but also more accurate reflection of student learning. The MCAP scores from this year will count for accountability of schools, and the schools will receive their ESSA report cards at the beginning of next school year. Last week, we were able to surprise the 5 finalists for the AACPS Teacher of the Year at their school and with their students. This year's finalists are Lacey Harold, a music teacher at Arundel Middle School, Jennifer Lowe, a special education teacher at Crofton High School, Nafisa Marcellus, a 2nd grade teacher at Brockbridge Elementary School, Molly Stavely, an English teacher at Glen Burnie High School, and Charles Whitaker, an HVAC teacher at Cat North. Congratulations to these incredible and talented and well-deserving teachers. The Teacher of the Year banquet and celebration will be held on April 26th at Live Event Center. Tickets are on sale now. And finally, the 2022 Presidential Awards of Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching was awarded to Joni Golden at Glen Burnie Park Elementary School. Ms. Golden is one of 117 educators and organizations across the United States to receive this award, which is the highest recognition a K-12 science, technology, engineering, mathematics, or a computer science teacher may receive for outstanding teaching. As an honoree, Ms. Golden will receive a certificate signed by the president and a trip to Washington, D.C. to attend a series of recognition events and professional development opportunities. She will also receive a $10,000 award from the National Science Foundation. Thank you, Madam President.
Well, that is certainly excellent news
It is
and
indeed.
wonderful, wonderful congratulations to Ms. Golden. So, Ms. Schallheim, your light is on.
Yes, I just wanted to say congratulations to all of our well-deserving educators as well. Just a wonderful time of year. And I also very much appreciated your comments about the fall test scores. Of course, I got my daughters in the mail, as you would expect one would as a student here, and immediately noticed that it was from the fall, which was the replacement for last spring. And so I really appreciate your further explanation and clarification on that. Illuminating, yes, but relevant for where they are today, not so much. So thank you so much for that. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis.
Thank you. Yes, congratulations to those amazing teachers that were honored today. I got to see a couple of those surprises, and wow, it's really something to experience. Dr. Lotto, 2 things. The MCAP, there's another important factor, I believe, in the history of this test, which is when was the first one ever administered? So the one prior to this fall, was that was the first MCAP ever administered? Am I right about that?
I believe that's correct, and I'll I'm sure Mr. Dykstra is watching, so he's probably going to text me and tell me that I'm giving you incorrect information. So I pulled out my phone to look, but I believe it's 2019 was the first official MCAP. But prior to that, it was the park assessments,
Right.
but they were correlated with the new incoming MCAP. So there was a
Right.
correlation in the scores.
So we don't have a real firm baseline
We do not.
what this should look like anyway. Okay. And then other question is, of course, you and your team have gone through, and the county as a whole has gone through a number of efforts, steps taken to improve the driver situation. Is there any information, or is anyone monitoring sort of how we're doing compared to surrounding counties based on steps that we've taken, and compared to what steps have other counties taken? Is there any stone unturned at this point, or do you have any? Is anyone sort of looking at those comparables?
So for me, the answer is no. I'm not looking at daily comparables. I don't get that information from the other counties. I don't know how many drivers they need, how many drivers they've been hired, how many they've been able to attract and train and then retain. So that's not information that's made available to the superintendents. I would not be surprised at all if our current acting Director of Transportation were keeping a closer eye on that information. I certainly can ask him what his conversations are with the other directors around the county. We certainly are not aware of any stone unturned, but we'll continue and do continue to talk with our colleagues. Many of our colleagues followed suit, say, for example, when we were able to offer, in conjunction with our county government, hiring retention bonuses. That became fairly popular around the state. But we are, if anybody has any ideas about where we can find qualified drivers, we are ready to take you up on that suggestion.
Thank you. Yeah, I just think it would be helpful if people are comparing notes. I mean, if there's a county that didn't do the bonuses or a county that is doing, something else. In other words, if we can start to get a picture of, did that help? Is this working, or is there something else? So, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Corkadell.
Thank you, President Tobin. Dr. Arlotto, thank you so much for sharing a little bit on an update on our education recovery. I'll just say, I mean, these tests I've never considered to be the end-all reflection of who and what we are. In fact, I consider it to be in that definitely less than 50% on any given year, particularly when they're changing the standards so frequently. But I understand iReady and some of the other and Brightspace have been able to allow us to still track. Is the board going to have an opportunity to maybe get additional information on that disaggregated data that we do want to track, to make sure that we're working together to address those who did experience some educational challenges that were unavoidable during our ongoing COVID, now that we're approaching recovery?
If there's something in particular, I'm glad to share it with the board. You mentioned iReady. I know we shared in an earlier presentation. I believe it was during the reading workshop. We talked a little bit about iReady and some of the iReady scores. iReady has been helpful for us, as you're well aware, because when we went into the virtual space, we were required by the state, and I think appropriately so, to have a diagnostic tool that we could use in the virtual environment. We've carried that over, and we are continuing to use that. So it's been well into a year and a half now that we've been utilizing iReady from the pre-K to grade 8 grade levels. We'll continue to use that. We've purchased it. We'll continue to use it. I'm glad to share numbers with you if the board would like to have. We have data, and we can generate a report if that's something the board would like to have.
Well, I mean, I don't know enough about our systems to suppose a detailed
request, but I would suggest that we do need to be understanding what deficiencies did occur, and then allow us to work as the instruct of change and improvement. But I think it does need to start with, where are we in comparison? Everywhere from like absences, for example, all the way down to, where we normally would be. What percentage of kids would we be, matriculating up through the system? Is there other deficiencies? Because I think it's, for people, we can say, okay, this test score has no meaning, but we do know across the whole nation, we have this loss. And I think parents really want to know what role they play beyond the working with the individual school, and where we are as a county, and where we want to be. Because I think some of that may have changed since we as a board have last assessed, here's what our expectations are. But I think it would start with that type of conversation. I know other other districts have done, different, I guess, similar to what the state board receives as far as desegregated data. Where are our weakest spots? How far did our Black boys fall? How far did our Latina community or English language learners fall, so that we can better instrument where we need to be as a board to well support you and your staff? Because none of this is a consequence of not doing anything but everything possible. But we still need to know what that looks like so we can forge ahead. So I don't know if that was helpful or not, but that's kind of where I'm going.
Thank you.
Overall, and I would just defer to our leadership, of course, for any details or decisions on that. But I just would like to say that I do think there is incredible value in us having that conversation, and regularly too, at least till we, stabilize some. And I honestly, based on what I heard on the Opportunity Gap group, I think there would be value to them as well as they work through opportunities to close the opportunity gap, not to use that word twice over. A synonym failed me. So thank you very much for everything. Greatly appreciate it.
Okay, Ms. Frank.
So I would definitely at some point want to sit down and talk about some of the scores and how we're going to sort of get back to the basics and get into the data and see how we're going to move that forward. But I will save that for another day. Today, I just want to say thank you for all of your hard work. There have been a lot of changes in the last couple of weeks, and I'm just so thrilled to be moving forward with everything. So Dr. Arlotto, I really, really thank you.
Excellent. Yes, I will add my thanks, and I think we will be having conversations about ways to make sure that we're abreast of where we are and what we need to be looking at. And as you say, this is about the entire community moving forward, as we hope we continue to emerge back into a more normalcy's been overused, regular way of doing business and going to school. So thank you. I see no other lights. So thank you. Okay, so we will move into section 5, consent items. 5.
Motion to bundle 5.01 to 5.04.
Okay. Do I have consensus? All right, Dr. Arlotto.
Thank you, Madam President. I recommend board approval of the contracts as listed on today's agenda, 5.01 through 5.04.
So moved.
Was there a second in there?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Howell.
Ms. Schallheim,
Aye.
Ms. Dent,
Aye.
Ms. Omasori,
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth,
Aye.
Ms. Frank,
Aye.
Ms. Ellis,
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell,
Aye.
Dr. Tobin.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you very much. Item 6.01, Administrative Personnel Appointments. Dr. Alato.
Thank you, Madam President. I recommend that the board approve the personnel listed on the attached sheet be promoted and or appointed.
So moved.
Second.
I see no lights. Okay.
Ms. Schalheim?
Aye, sorry, the delay was because
Yeah.
pressing the
Ms.
button.
Dent?
Aye.
Ms. Omasori?
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Ms. Frank?
Aye.
Ms. Ellis?
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell?
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item 6.02, Personnel. Dr. Alato.
Thank you. I recommend that the board approve the actions or as stipulated on the attached sheets.
So moved.
Second.
I see no lights.
Ms. Schalheim?
Aye.
Ms. Dent?
Aye.
Ms. Omasori?
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Ms. Frank?
Aye.
Ms. Ellis?
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell?
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item 6.03, Items of Legislation. Good afternoon, Ms. Ortiz.
Good afternoon. For the record, Jeanette Ortiz, Legislative and Policy Counsel. Before you is another lengthy packet, proposed legislation. This should be the last lengthy one. I think we have one more short one coming. And so just as a friendly reminder, legislation in Section 1 would need a vote from the board, which there isn't any. Section 2 are just bills as FYI, no position for a variety of reasons. They may not impact us directly. It may be something that we typically would oppose, but we're already doing, so we don't want to get in the middle of it. And then Section 3 are the vast majority of bills per usual, which are covered under the board's 2022 legislative program. I am happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Frank.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Ortiz, for taking my phone call yesterday. Sorry, it took a little longer than I thought.
That's okay.
So I wanted to rediscuss Senate Bill 717, the virtual day. So our conversation was that your concern and the reason that we wanted a letter of information was because of one particular piece of language that gave the responsibility of the curricula or developing the program to the board, and it should have been to the superintendent, correct?
So sort of a couple of things. So yes, that's accurate. There is a provision in the bill which would ask the board to develop a plan. And so we thought that really is a superintendent staff expertise thing. And also technically under COMAR and state law, we're authorized to do this. I know that perhaps MSD has had a different sort of interpretation, but in my conversations with my colleagues, we're technically authorized to do it. So we just thought that a letter of information would be good just to share that information and also just to point out that perhaps they would want to consider changing the development of the plan from the county board to the superintendent, as that would be more appropriate.
Okay. So after the conversation with Ms. Ortiz, I would like to, instead of just a letter of information, support with amendments, that particular amendment. Do you have any language to that, or what it?
I can come up with something, or just provide what I provided. I can also draft I can harken back to my days as a legislative attorney for Department of Legislative Services and draft some technical amendments as well, whatever is easiest.
Okay. Yeah. So I would like to move to support with amendments pending what Ms. Ortiz thinks would be viable and helpful.
Second.
Okay. I see some lights. Are there lights speaking to this?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, so you were first Ms. Schalheim and then Ms. Ellis. Yeah.
Yeah, so are you comfortable with supports with amendments for this bill, or do you think the school system would be comfortable with this?
Yeah, I think it's fine. Support with amendments. We discussed it. There's legislation sometimes that, you can kind of go back and forth. We ultimately opted for the letter of information, but we weren't going to oppose it. That's for sure. So I also circled back with Dr. Alato after I spoke to you, Mrs. Frank. And so we're both comfortable with a support with amendment.
Okay. Great, thanks.
Is that it? Ms. Ellis?
So I always like to put things in really plain terms to make sure I understand it correctly. So basically, what you were suggesting in this letter of information is it's not necessary, it's redundant because of what was recently done. So I remember, going back over the last couple of years, we've been told, well, you can't do this because state law prohibits this. So I think boards across the state have been, sort of working with their legislators to try and make this happen, right? So that's probably how we landed where we are. But in the meantime, it happened just a few
Yeah,
weeks
so
prior.
that's part of it. And again, I know that MSD has had its interpretation of what's in COMAR in state law. And so this certainly would make it clearer, right?
Right.
There would be no potential to misinterpret. And so that's why the letter of information. But again, we do not have an issue with the support with amendment if the board wishes to have something that's even clearer stated in state law.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could, make clear our position that this is something we want. Even though we can do it now, this is what we wanted. So I'm comfortable with the motion. And for your information, Dr. Tobin, I have one more thing when we complete.
Right, that's a different issue, right? Dr. Alato?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to Mrs. Ellis's point and Ms. Ortiz that what the state has allowed the LEAs to do in this space is only good for this year. Right? So this is legislation that would move forward beyond this year. We only have the ability to use virtual instruction for an inclement weather day for the 21-22 school year only. That's all that the state has granted us.
Are there any more lights on this? Okay, so Ms. Frank.
I do just want to say, I absolutely support this piece of legislation. When we are tasked with trying to accommodate our calendar every year, it is a tremendous job to get all of the days in with the short amount of time that we're trying to do that. And in this particular year, I think it shows us why having this option to move to virtual and not have to cut in later and later is just really, really valuable. So I have spoken to a couple of people to try to get some ideas on how to address it. I think this piece of legislation will definitely address some of the concerns that some of the board members have had about our calendar. So I am supporting this. Thank you.
Okay, so seeing no other lights on this issue, I think we can, on this particular one, can we go ahead and vote?
Sure. Ms. Frank moved to change the board's position on Senate Bill 0717, Public Schools Virtual Education, to support with amendments. Ms. Schalheim?
Aye.
Ms. Dent?
Aye.
Ms. Omasori?
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Ms. Frank?
Aye.
Ms. Ellis?
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell?
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, now, Ms. Schalheim, you had a light for something else, I believe, and then Ms.
Yeah.
Ellis.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Ms. Ortiz for her hard work. This packet was a lot.
It's a lot. Yes, yes, it was.
Maybe reflective of the year.
It's an election year.
It's an election year packet.
Yeah, the last two have been.
It's not to waste good pasta, but it was kind of like a throwing of spaghetti on the wall. But I appreciate your input on all these things, and it's very helpful to me personally to understand where we're at with all these. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis.
Thank you. I wanted to ask about House Bill 1258, primary and secondary education, educational options. So I know, this board has weighed in sort of on our legislative position packet that we developed up front. We don't always agree on everything, but I just have to, this one in particular, offering broadening options and opportunities for students. Our job here is to serve the students of AACPS and to provide schools throughout the county that will meet and exceed the needs of our students in the county. That's our job, and we have funding that we get every year from the state and county and some federal to accomplish that. I guess my question in the statement opposing this bill is AACPS opposes the diversion of public education funds to non-public schools.
And that comes from the legislative program directly.
Correct. That's why I mentioned that in the beginning of my statement. But I guess philosophically, I struggle with that statement in terms of, yes, so we get, let's give a round figure, $15,000 per year per student. And we don't want that number to decrease. But if our enrollment decreases, in other words, if students are going elsewhere, I have no concern with how those students are supported in the community. In other words, as long as our funding per pupil doesn't go down, I don't see us as a business where we're trying to recruit students. We are here to offer an excellent education, and parents make the choice as to whether or not this is the right place for their student or elsewhere. So I'm not even in this moment proposing a motion to change the board's position, but I guess it's the explanation of the board's position that I have a little trouble with.
Sure. So a couple things. So this bill is almost identical to several bills that were in your previous packet. This one took it even further because it would allow charter schools to have sole authorization, which is a complete usurping of this board's authority as far as chartering authority. So this one was even more of an opposition than all the other previous bills. But to a couple of the things that you stated, right? So, I mean, we discussed this, I think, when we were discussing the board's legislative program because you expressed similar concerns. We're public school education. So our concern and our focus is for public school education. You know, I'm not aware of any boards, MAE, PZAM, or otherwise, that support the diversion of public funds to non-public education, private parochial homeschooling, because it's not as simple as per pupil funding. It's not as simple as saying, if we lose that child, then we don't get that funding. That funding the state could use for other things for public education. So these are long-standing positions of this board, 24 boards of education, MABE. It's not anything that's new or novel. And so this position is almost identical to the positions that I wrote for the other several bills in the previous packet. So it shouldn't have stood out unnecessarily, except for that last paragraph, because it goes, as I said, further as far as chartering authority and taking away that power from this board. And so our position is that we don't support legislation that seeks to interfere in the board authority or school systems authority. And so that's our position. It's not, it's public school funding is very complicated and much more complicated than I could ever get into. That's why we have Mr. Shaknovich and Mr. Stansky. But certainly, you know, having funding going to private parochial homeschool student, it does impact us because that funding, if it's not going to the student, I mean, we have a backlog, a maintenance backlog, right, of millions, billions of dollars, you know, and the state has billions of dollars of maintenance backlog. There are other activities. I mean, the implementation of Blueprint is going to be billions upon billions of dollars statewide. And so all that money, right, the state needs that money in order to do its job in public education. And that's what this school system and this board, that's our priority. So we're, I suppose there could be a time in the future where we would support, but I don't see that. It would be very inconsistent with public education.
Well, this is something, and you mentioned there have been other bills, and why I bring it up now. Well, I could spend hours of this board's time on particular bills, and I pick and choose. But I am interested, and I will be, I think, more proactive in having a more robust discussion with this board next fall, leading up to session. But just some of the things that you said, Ms. Ortiz, and you are properly and correctly representing the position that boards of education here in Anne Arundel County have taken. I get that. But I don't see, we are given a certain dollar amount per student to educate that student. And we have a responsibility to educate that student. And if we need further funding for that student, we need to make the case for that in our budget each year. But I don't consider funding elsewhere a diversion from what we're doing here. And I don't see this board as any sort of position of power or authority beyond this school system. So that's just, I guess, I don't expect to get 5 votes right now on changing this position today. So I'm not going to make a motion, but this discussion will continue, and for me, escalate going into the next session. Thank you.
And just to clarify, my positions is not of previous boards. These positions are the positions of this board in accordance with your legislative program.
Yeah,
so I
I
just
think
want to
we-
be clear about that.
I think we both acknowledged that, and that's why I was indicating my intentions moving forward. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Ms. Corkadell.
Yeah, this is not a request to change a position or anything, but I did have a couple questions that I'd like to be able to speak perhaps a little more intelligently to. And it's concerning HB 1280. And so in full disclosure, as a parent of a comp sci future grad here, I would like to know a little bit more about, I guess my legislative specific question is it that the state gives us a list of approved courses that we can then issue the credits for graduation of in a given subject matter, or is it a different system?
So I'm definitely not the expert on curriculum instruction. I don't know if
Like,
Dr. Latta wants
is-
to jump in there.
So is
Absolutely.
this, yeah, go ahead.
The courses are, so we write the courses and they're approved by MSDE in the area of math in particular, because that's what's associated here. Is there's a sequence, so we are required to. We have always required 4 credits in Anne Arundel County. The state of Maryland required 3. It is now 4, beginning with this year's 9th graders. And there's a sequence in that the student must complete Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2, and then an approved course beyond Algebra 2. It has to be of a higher degree than what Algebra 2 is, and then there's a variety of offerings. But that is through the approval of MSDE.
So I guess where I'm maybe just confused on is that, so this actually is a kind of like a hard legislated prerequisite as opposed to our regular system which could determine that it could be applicable and would be case by case. This is just saying that specifically, this is like a carve out. Is that my
So
understanding?
the legislation,
Yeah.
so the legislation, and again, the board opposes efforts by the General Assembly to legislate curriculum. And so, right, the proper course would be for MSDE to either establish a work group or do a comprehensive review to determine whether they feel it's appropriate to include computer science courses or computer programming courses in math, under math credit, as opposed to the General Assembly, which, with all due respect, I mean, they don't have the expertise to make those determinations. And so, our folks, the concern is that you need the experts to really make those determinations if that's the will, of the state board and MSD. And then, of course, we would do what we
Gotcha.
need to do.
Yeah, I see why we're opposing it, but it is helpful to understand why, a little bit more of the why, because, well, computer science has always had an identity crisis, as it were. It's a little science, it's a little math. So I see where the rub is, but thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you, Ms. Corkadell. Ms. Frank?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to go back to some of Mrs. Ellis's comments about charter schools in general. We rank the lowest in Maryland in charter schools. We have the weakest charter school law, ranking 45 out of 45. And as we get into virtual versus not virtual versus different learning styles, Magnet, Interbaccalaureate, charter school, non-public schools, there are a lot of different options. And I would certainly just sort of like to signal my support is to having the conversations that allow us to explore those options. So I might not be 5, but I would definitely be interested in talking about this more.
Dr. Alotto?
Just to clarify for those that were listening, because you gave a ranking number, 45 out of 45 around the country, not 45 out of 45 in the state of Maryland.
Correct. Yes.
Right. It wasn't an ACPS ranking. It's a state ranking.
Correct. I'm
from
sorry.
individual states around charter, and those rankings are produced by
State law.
So
I'm sorry.
I think it's important just to, because you shared the ranking, who is ranking them?
Publiccharterschools.org. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. So as we're talking about state law and
Right. They're watching,
Yes.
they're monitoring the state laws as to whether they are friendly or not friendly.
Correct.
To the
Right.
establishment of charter schools in that state.
yes, but that's
We
not-
are the least friendly.
we are the
is
least friendly.
argument, right?
I just
Yeah,
because the numbers were out, I wanted
right.
everybody listening to clarify where that number was coming from.
Ms. Schallheim? I'm sorry, Ms. Frank, were you finished?
Just one
Sorry.
more comment that I had. In public comment today, it was mentioned that we should dig into these a little bit more. I don't necessarily agree or disagree. I think that we could absolutely get lost in some of these legislative agendas. As Ms. Ortiz said, they are very comprehensive. So while I do agree, if we do see certain pieces of legislation that have interest, if we have an agenda that allows us to kind of explore it, I do appreciate having these conversations. But obviously, Ms. Ortiz, I do not know if we can dig into every single bill that you put. And to be clear, I don't know. Well, I guess, how many bills do you give us an opinion on average in a session?
At least probably like a couple hundred. I'm
couple
tracking like over probably around 400 or so,
400.
because they're more like ancillary and tangential bills, like on mandatory reporter requirements
Yeah.
or things in the criminal law article that we would not weigh in on, or that are so like specified or detail, or very specified in one particular thing, but could impact what we do here. So I still track all of those. I just don't really, not as closely as the ones that are directly, truly impacting our work as public school education, as a school system, as a board, as a public agency. And so those are probably like a couple hundred. I submit over 100 testimonies each session, so it's busy.
Yeah.
Very busy. No, I appreciate that. And so I do just want to say, we do track quite a few.
Yes.
And you give some really great sort of insight on what we've done before and where we go with it. So I do appreciate that. But if we do have availability to discuss like this particular bill that we're discussing today. I am interested in kind of having those discussions, and I think it is helpful, not on every bill, but on some. I think it's appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Schoenlein.
Actually, this sparked an idea. Perhaps at the end of the session, we can know which of the ones that were particular, especially the ones we directly supported or opposed, which were successful in making it through to the end as well.
Yeah, so I put together a lengthy end of session report, just kind of summarizing the legislation that passed, and I highlight key bills, and then I go into, kind of break it down to for you by subject matter. But certainly if it's, helpful to the board to have sort of an end of session closeout where I can just highlight some key bills. I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah,
Sure.
and then since others are weighing in, I will too. Because I didn't think this was going to come up today. Surely, it's a strong position that the Board of Education, as far back as probably its existence has had. But I am absolutely, and with every ounce of my being, against diverting any sort of funding away from our mission here, which is to educate public school students. We're a public pre-K to 12 system, and I appreciate Ms. Ortiz stating that even if the money were to go somewhere else, then it's not supporting our backlogs, our facilities, our planning for the future, et cetera, et cetera. I will never be for that in any way. And so I just want to make that clear for anyone listening, for the record, now or in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like to add a couple of comments because this topic is of interest to me. So in addition to my current position, as many of you are aware, I've chaired the board of a private school. I routinely chair accreditation teams evaluating public charter networks around the country. I also actually served on the curriculum review committee for the local Friends meeting, Quaker meeting that I attend that had a homeschooling umbrella. And so we had families who homeschooled through us, and a number of us served on the committee that reviewed, as I said, their curricula as well as the general processes. And I would just say, I think the big concern about the bill that was raised is there in this, I believe it's the second paragraph of the opposition statement, which is the concern about the regulation of this money. Okay, we as public schools are highly regulated and therefore highly accountable for that money. If there's a suggestion that that money should somehow be available to families through a scholarship process or otherwise that make different choices, either for particularly private or parochial schools or homeschooling, be aware. And to my friends who are fiscally conservative, I think this is very important to think about. You are now suggesting that money go into places where it is highly unregulated, or, I know as chair of the board of a private school, I would have been very much against that because I would have known full well that that meant our money was going to be regulated. We were going to have to meet public school standards. So I think one should always be careful for what one wishes for. This is indeed not simply a matter of the money following the child one place or another. This is about taxpayer accountability. And so I think we need to be very cognizant of that. I would also suggest that though I have in fact observed and written accreditation reports on charter schools in some states which are the friendliest to the charter world, and I have seen egregious schools because there is almost no regulation. I have seen some good ones, but I would simply remind everyone that part of the requirements that we go through, the difficulty of the work of public education has a whole lot to do with the fact that we are highly accountable. And I think I'm very concerned about any idea that one could have it both ways. One could have that money and not have accountability. So that will be my view going forward. So thank you. I see, was that your previous slide, Ms. Ellis? Ms. Corkadell.
Thank you, President Tobin. I wasn't going to comment any further, but when Ms. Frank had mentioned about the complexities of the legislative process, I got to say, just the state is the process, and it's their legislation. So where us debating where we should be is definitely different than us doing a 101 on legislation that is not ours. And so I've been encouraging people to reach out to me to become familiar with the state system, because just like Ms. Ortiz can track, and I have my little tracking I have on there, you can track the bills. I would not be comfortable with us in a position of that, but maybe in the section where people can access our positions, we could have a link or two to the state as to how they can be involved. Similarly, with the council, when we talk about budget and different things like that, that's already left our desk. And so just getting that quick link may be a helpful way of us facilitating of who to talk to. But the delegation, correct, makes their positions on all of the legislation too, right? And so the people who are making the decisions are our folks who have an interest in this one way or the other should be seeking, correct?
Yeah, so yes, so we have an Anne Arundel County delegation. Each county has their delegation delegates and their senators, and certainly there are local bills which the delegation considers. Sometimes they're educational local bills, and most of the time they're dealing with things not dealing with education. And so if it's a local bill, right, you need the full support, or you need a majority support of the delegation to put forth a letter of support for a committee to even consider voting on a local bill. As it relates to statewide legislation, all of our legislators sit on committees, and so certainly we're represented on the House Ways and Means Committee, which hears the education legislation. As it relates to policy, we have representation on the House Appropriations Committee, which is like the budgetary and policy committee in the House, and similarly on the Senate, EHE, Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs Education Committee, and Budget and Taxation. And so we have representation on all of those committees, and certainly I reach out to them and meet with them and chat with them and submit our testimony, as well as all the other legislators. I mean, this is my 17th session, so I kind of know a few folks at the General Assembly, so make sure that I'm able to advocate on behalf of the school system. But also, just to point out, to your point about making information available, I have a page on the AACPS website, which is a legislative and policy page, and it has links to the General Assembly, to our delegation, all of their information. I also post, I know on board docs this is updated, but then once we're done here, so like I will update the position on Senate Bill 717 to support with amendments, and I upload that as well so that the public has access to the positions of the board. And I know there's a lot of things on our website, but just to make that information known. So there are a couple of different ways that individuals can obtain information. Then obviously, with the onset of COVID-19, that forced the legislature to do, their work virtually. And so while the Senate has moved to in-person, the House is still doing all of their work virtually. And so, the General Assembly over the last several years has moved to be even more transparent and provide more access to constituents to be able to see the voting sessions, for example, which was never the case, or the floor sessions when they're debating bills, committee sessions. subcommittee meetings, et cetera. So there's a plethora of information out there. For
Well, and I
folks to
know
share.
it's frustrating for folks when they're interfacing with the state and the feds. It's so much easier to want to interface with the local person because they tend to be more engaging and more understanding of what you want, what your needs are. But really, this is state, and state is very complex. But thank you so very much of the reminder of where they can find it on our website. And and just to note, we do receive, and people can interact with us vis-a-vis email and the board office and your office on pieces of legislation throughout the session and in preparation from. I mean, there's sometimes where we're hearing stuff and it's only September, October
Oh, yeah.
on the pre-files. So most certainly we want as many people as possible advocating for our school system. And it is a challenging, just because it's so big, of to interface with. So greatly appreciated.
Thank you. So did you still have something you want to say, Ms. Ellis?
I just wanted to make a point. I mean, Ms. Corkadell brought up the computer science bill. I'll call it that. That's another one that I have issue with, and but again, I wouldn't bring up every single bill. I just want to make a point. If I bring one up, it's for discussion. That doesn't mean that there aren't others. But and as far, again, this definitely is for me a conversation to be continued as we prepare for the next session. I think every organization is accountable in one way or another, either to the taxpayers or the writer of the check, the parents' checkbook or whatever. But I just want to make it clear, I wouldn't, as a board member, as a private citizen, I may support this bill, but I'm not here as a private citizen. As a board member, I'm just suggesting that I don't know why the board would take a position on a bill that, again, to me, shouldn't impact public schools. I would take a position if they wish to reduce per pupil funding in order to make this happen. That's where I would take issue. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I believe that's it. Thank you very much, Ms. Ortiz. We appreciate
Thank you.
it.
And as always, if you have any questions or concerns about legislation, call me, email me, text me. Some of you do that regularly, and I appreciate that because it's helpful to be able to explain things that may not be obvious from a position statement.
And may you get some rest soon.
Yes, I have a trip to Miami in April.
We expect to see you tanned and happy when you
get very tan.
Thank you very much. Okay, item 6.04, Crofton Middle School Additional Design Development. Dr. Alano.
Thank you, Madam President. I recommend board approval of the Crofton Middle School Addition Design Development. You have the information before you, and we are glad to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Was that your previous light, Ms. Ellis? Yes. Okay.
Oh, so moved.
Second. Oh, I had so wanted to. It's my zone. That's okay.
Yeah,
The student doing this even better.
Let me say they found a really cool way to just get those classrooms in. So, okay, Ms. Corkadell.
So I just want to say thank you guys so very much. We have been hearing from the community, and it is all good. I think they're craving information. They're in that phase. They just want to know where to support and what to support. And so I just want to tell folks that, if something's in our budget, in the capital budget, this is the moment to be talking to the funders, the state, the county council, the county executive, the governor, everybody that's involved in the budget. But I just wanted to thank you guys for it. This is very exciting because I know that our principals have been incredibly creative in how they map out that building. And it's like it's a whole exercise in and of itself that I think is even more so than some of our other aging schools. So I know that the community is very appreciative of this. And I think the quality of education, we're going to be able to achieve more in the outcome of this. And that should be our goal when we take on such a significant investment. So Thank you guys a lot and no detailed questions.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Schallheim.
Yes, it's always great to see these. Thank you so much for your work. One question. Yes, that word again, solar. I know that we're prepping our roofs on new construction, but why are we not taking advantage of the opportunity to put solar on new real estate, such as additions like this, especially as costs of heating and cooling and other ways go up, and solar is free. Well, after the initial bit.
For the record, Lisa Seaman Crawford, Director of Facilities. As the term we've used around here a lot is sometimes the juice is not worth the squeeze. So for the smaller additions, it's just not economically viable at this time.
Okay. So this is not directly part of this particular agenda item. I'll ask my question through Dr. Arlotto about other projects in the system regarding solar. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do you have your light on, Ms. Ellis?
I do.
Okay.
I just want to say I walked through those doors of Crofton Junior High School. I think it's first year that it was open. So I spent a lot of time over there, and yeah, it can use a little expansion, but and this is little, but yeah, thank you. I certainly approve.
Thank you. I see no other lights. Thank you very much, both of you. Dr. Arlotto, do you have any? No, I thought you looked at me.
My recommendation.
Yes, please. Yeah, okay, please, your recommendation.
He already
Oh,
gave it.
you already did on this one. Forgive me. We have a motion. We have a second. Let's have a vote.
Ms. Schallheim,
Oh, definitely.
Ms. Dent,
Yeah,
Okay.
Ms. Amasore, Mr. Silkworth,
Aye.
Ms. Frank,
Aye.
Ms. Ellis,
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell,
Aye.
Dr. Tobin.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item 7.01, award of contracts. Dr. Arlotto.
Thank you. We're open to take any questions you may have about the contracts before you.
Ms. Ellis. Yeah. Any, just, okay, I see no lights. All right. So we need to close. Wait, yes, you have the motion? Yes.
Yes, Madam President, I move that the board go into closed session to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice on a legal matter.
So moved.
Second.
Consensus? Okay, thank you.